You ever have somebody talk during a movie? I know you're not a big movie guy. Let's say you're watching a game and they're just sitting over there and it's like
Of course.
you calm down, then suddenly they just start going again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Father's Day weekend, beautiful weather, rain cleared out, sitting back patio, enjoying some scenery. That just won't stop, right? The
Yeah.
mouth start, you're like, wait, it's Father's Day weekend. It's supposed to be our day. I think all of us fathers can relate when you look over at, let's say, the child or whoever, and you go, "Hey, this is enough."
Yeah.
Is that the Father's Day like quote?
Well, I got two young kids. I don't really think I have that in my future for quite a while. They're going to kind of
No,
do their
yeah,
thing.
you get the pass.
And yeah, I'm not like I said, Father's Day probably the most overrated holiday I've been a part of.
Why do
Been a
we hate
father now.
Father's Day?
I don't hate it. I just think again we're on this world where I think most of our listeners are going to understand us to have kids is like it's not really different than the other day. Kids try, maybe you get a small gift, which is that stuff's great. I mean, I'm not against that, but it's just I think we all kind of feel like, especially if you're a dad who's really done some things in your life, the holidays have just gotten out of control. So it's just like another holiday that you got to be a part of. And it's like, I get this is about me, but I just kind of want holidays to calm down a bit.
I
It
love
seems
it.
like we're always celebrating. So it's always something.
Every month there's something, right?
Oh,
So
dude, it's
so the time to celebrate for the dad, you see the videos, see the posts, the commercials. It's all about letting dad do what he wants to do.
which is, I mean, that's
Like
just not.
finally, one day out of the year, damn it.
Yeah, it's not. And like I said, man, it's all good. I appreciate it, but it's just one of those things. Like I think we're all a little holidayed out. That's what I feel like when I get around to Father's Day. It's like I get this is about us, but I'm just a little. I'm good on the holidays, man. I'm good.
But
We
there's
got a
never
lot
going to
of
be
them.
enough holidays, is there? There's
Oh
going to
no,
never be
because look,
enough
you
Father's
got to
Day.
give it to people. Whoever's inventing the holidays, they got people believing it's this month, it's that month, it's this thing. The birthdays have gotten more out of control in our lifetime. Like it's
Oh,
just
yeah. What's your
the
deal
whole
with
thing.
saying you can't say happy birthday to another dude?
Yeah, look. I mean, we got to be a little bit politically correct here, but yeah, I mean, you get to a certain age, man. We're good on the birthday wishes. Like we're good.
Is that what it is? Like you get to a certain age? You think it is? You think it's age?
Yeah, of course. Look, I mean, it's when you're 22 years old and you're like, hey, we're going to go out and party, then birthdays are great. I mean, you're like, yeah, let's. I mean, not that I really needed an excuse when I was 22 to go, have a good time. I wasn't. I mean, I'd have a good time on a Tuesday. It didn't matter. I just think with age, you go, hey, look, man, it's nice to be on the earth another day. We're good. Another year passed. Got some good things going, but if it's on a Tuesday, you got to go to work. I mean,
You and 50, huh?
what's the difference?
You and 50 going out on a Tuesday, are you?
Maybe, yeah,
Going to the club. The thing I think as we get older, we definitely always think about, there's always the fun times as you go into those moments of the holidays. Of course, mom sent over a picture of my dad. For those of you that haven't lost your father, those are the times that, everybody does that. Oh, and it's like, oh, remember when. I think a lot of the times I get in those moments, I remember when, and I start going into vehicles. Like the thing about when anybody sees my Wagoneer and it's an 84, no, Billy, I don't know what the liters of the engine or how many cubic feet,
yeah,
what I don't know all that stuff.
yeah,
It's the one that came with it and it's metal, right? It's steel. That's the
yeah.
cool part where you start going into some things of, you get older and you go, this engine was actually made of steel. This door, when you shut it, you can feel it's a door, right? Like our Nissan, I I don't know how much metal is actually in there. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it's just I mean, a lot of plastic. It's look, we're seeing a big resurgence for those of you not listening to Clutch Culture. I mean, we see it across our social platforms at Clutch Culture that there is a reverence that's not even age specific. I mean, you see a lot of 20-year-olds that are getting into older cars from the 90s and the 80s and people just wanting something that feels like a real experience, no matter how nice or not nice it is, right? It's not just the nice cars that are catching fire. It's a lot of cars. People are just like, this new stuff is so expensive for feeling like you don't get a lot of high quality. And is that fair? to the car manufacturers because it's costing them more money than ever to build a car. Maybe it's not fair, but it just feels different. And again, I tell people all the time, getting a 2003 LX, which is basically a Land Cruiser, and then I got buddies going out and buying the new Land Cruiser, driving the new Forerunners, driving the new GX 550. They've been in my 2003, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I think this is nicer. It's just a different feel these days."
What do you think goes into we joke about all the GMC black, right? Like what would make somebody actually do that? We joke about all the different stuff that goes on in cars, and we go, where was that engineer meeting? When did they actually go, hey, enough is enough. We got to do and change, right? And they go and change some certain things. Sometimes it's for the good, right? Sometimes you look at some stuff and you go, wow, this was awesome. Sometimes you look at it and you go, what the hell are you guys thinking? I go,
Yeah,
why'd you change this?
I think the other thing is that GM Black is one of those things that kind of depends on what GM product and where it was painted, right? I mean, some of the things have become so hyper specific. I was just talking to a pad manufacturer, compound and just a actual pad manufacturer in our industry, talking to a very knowledgeable guy that goes, "Look, man, we're seeing all kinds of differences in everybody's paint. This GM Black is not the same as this GM Black. So let's use an example. A black Corvette is not like a GMC, Sierra anymore, right? Largely, the Corvette Black is much more easy to deal with, much more of a robust paint system by all accounts, and it all comes down to cutting a cost or trying to figure out some new way of doing things. And progress is progress, but there's a lot of this that we all deal with in the detailing world that it doesn't feel like progress sometimes. I mean, especially I think it's been the most noticeable on the interiors. I mean, interiors have been going downhill for the better part of my career. I don't know that they've ever gotten better. It always seems to be less and less quality, more and more cheap parts, less true leather wrapped items inside of an interior, where it was kind of the norm when you got a leather package. You had a lot of your dash was leather wrapped, your all that kind of stuff. That's now mostly plastic, unless you get into really high end vehicles. So I think it's just a matter of everybody cutting a cost, and from product to product inside the same brand, you can see all kinds of differences.
So was it product cost? And I know we don't know ever, but we can always whatever's leaked or what they tell us, right? When you mentioned interiors, definitely one interior, I always wondered why they changed it. Why did you guys do this? Because it was a staple, it was a signature, and that was the King Ranch, right? That King Ranch leather.
Yeah.
You might have hated it. Unless you owned one, right? Or unless it was yours and you loved it. You always talked about your leather seats and how great it was. I saw one of those expeditions this weekend, big old expedition. Love those.
Yeah.
One of those old cars, trucks I'd love to get, right? Like some of those King Ranch expeditions were really, really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, aniline leather, I mean, basically what you would call an uncoated natural leather. And I probably saw more of those things ruined than, you know, almost anything else from a leather perspective, right? Because people just spray APC all over it and, think that it was like, just going to react normally, and they'd scrub the shit out of it. And I mean, they were nice, they did a great job with
They
those, but
talked.
look, man, you had a lot of people screw up those interiors. I mean, I think that I'm not saying the detailing part of it, but from a certain point of view, Ford probably had enough dealing with it, bringing in that special leather and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you think it was like all the troubles of getting something special? Do you think
Sure.
it was? I've always wondered. Do you think people get enough complaints and then they
I don't
make
know if
it?
it's complaints, but you got to realize, I mean, the whole car industry, just like a lot of things that you guys found out about during COVID, is all based on supply chain. So every new supply chain somebody has to deal with. We deal with this at HQ. You and I had a conversation today about a supplier that, we think to ourselves, should they be in the chain anymore?
Yeah.
Are they a great part of the chain? Are they an important part of the chain? Are they shored up as a supplier that make them a valuable part of the chain? So a lot of this stuff is just supply chain oriented. It's really boring, but there's a lot of people that make a lot of comments on the internet, and they don't realize most of this stuff is just about They were done dealing with the supplier. The supplier was a headache. It had nothing to do with your complaints or my complaints or the guys down the street complaints. It could have some effect, but a lot of it is, do they just want to keep dealing with the supply chain?
Uh, is that, I know there was a big one we talked at the first part of Corona. A lot of the stuff that was happening, a lot of the things, which we won't go back into it. One of the ones I remember we've talked about was that smell that you would get from an AC every once in a while. We can kind of all remember that's what I'd written down thinking about the old ones, right? Like I specifically wrote down a conversion van because that's what we had when I was a kid. And it didn't matter how hot it was outside. It didn't matter how bad that air conditioning smelled when it was hitting your face. Listen, it's hot outside. You're throwing your face right in the middle of that, and you're
Yeah.
getting as much AC on it
And
as you can.
especially like if grew up in a humid climate, ACs were under a lot of pressure. You get a lot of moisture inside of that AC system, which would cause some of that like moldy type smell. It wasn't actually mold; it just had kind of that type of vibe to it. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Like you think about some of that stuff. I mean, some of the interiors we used to deal with. I mean, it was hard to get smells out of AC units. It was hard to get any type of smells out of the interior. Some of that stuff you had like all that quilted, like really thick foam padded seats and stuff like that. That stuff was tough to deal with.
So, I mean, you got to, in a sense, get a feeling. At least I would. I would think that, because it seems to be that the way kind of we do, right? Like, hey, if there's a problem that we're seeing people regularly have when they're cleaning something, we got to figure out a solution to solve it, right? Like AC, there's times where people will say, hey, you can put this AC system in. It's going to clean out your AC system. You can go, what about the detailers who put their steamer down and they stick their hose down. They steam out the vents that are really trying to. There's a time where I go, are we doing something here? Did somebody go, hey, listen, we're going to solve the problem? Or are we just kind of grasping at the wind and hoping that, hey, we're going to do something that's going to look like we're doing something, but we're not really doing something because there's part of our industry that seems to be just a cover and show, right? Like we just have to look like we're dancing, have to look like we're doing something, but we didn't really do anything. Old school, we go back in the days when I watched somebody detail a car, a competitor, and they pretty much for their interior detail was just dressing.
Oh yeah,
Now,
that
this was
was
not me
huge.
hating. Don't get it. I'm not doing that. I just watched them. I wanted to see what they did. And I went, oh,
Yeah, I mean that was a lot more. And by the way, I mean I remember seeing that with Blue Magic, which was like really thick, grimy stuff to put on an interior, much worse than what most guys are doing today. Yeah, I saw stuff like that. I mean, look, when you talk about the steamer's one of those things underused and overused at the same time, right? Sort of like a clay bar can be underused and overused at the same time. Both things can be true. Are you really getting a lot done with steaming your vents? No. I mean, look, if feel like you need to clean out your vents, you're probably in chlorine tablet territory, or what are those things back in the day? That you just dropped them in and closed it up and ran the recirculator and kind of got everything cleaned up. I mean, there's people that are overly dramatic about what can happen if you put a steamer through the vent system. It's not going to create mold, guys. There's not enough water. It dries pretty quickly, especially if you have the AC running. Do you have to do it? No. Do I really do it? Not really. I understand why people would think, oh, you're going to create a problem. But remember, man, a steamer, even a cheap one, is not going to put enough water, quote unquote, through an AC system on its own to create all of this havoc people think is going to. But it's also not going to solve a bunch of problems
there you
either.
go. There you go. And that's what I was going to say on the flip of it. I was going to say, but they're not really doing anything to solve
No.
anything. That makes cool videos. And is it for marketing? It's in a sense why you ask, why do some people do it? What
And
did
here's
they
the thing, could you
see?
get like a little bit of cleaning done? Okay. I mean, that's what I say is that we get in these arguments and detailing that just don't amount to very much, right? It doesn't amount to a lot to sit there on the internet like we see and argue about a steamer. Can people absolutely damage interiors with a steamer? Yeah, it happens every day. Just like you can damage it with the wrong chemical, just like you could damage it with letting things dry on a surface of an exterior. Absolutely. But I see people like railing against a steamer, and it's like, buddy, if you move a steamer pretty quick on a door panel, there's no chance for anything to happen. Now, if you take it and you take the hot end that's like, really, really hot and jam it on the door, could it burn the door? Like, yeah, I mean, of course it could do that. But I don't think anybody's advocating that that's what you do. And so I think a steamer is one of those things that has incredible amount of hate, incredible amount of love, and it falls somewhere in the middle as it's just another tool that if you use it properly, it has some uses. It doesn't have as many uses as everybody thinks. It's not, sanitizing interiors as the people that think that that's happening. That's not going down. It's a good cleaning tool if you need a little extra help in a cup holder, on a door panel, on a really grimy interior. But yeah, man, there's good and bad to it. And it seems like that's where we've gotten with a lot of these discussions is, the steamer can be one of those hot button issues of good and bad. And people think that it's so good or so bad are usually the people that are wrong.
Yeah, once you say it, once somebody gets on their heels, so to speak, they're gonna yell and shout at the other heel and be like, no, that commercial. You ever seen where they're like, "Hey, watch it," and these people are yelling back at each other like, "Hey, fuck you!"
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it
Yeah.
seems to be in a sense of what it gets to. Whether you're a steamer or not, you definitely got to go with this what I do enzyme. We talk about things that as you progress through, you get a little older, you start to get some experience. Like what I see on pretty much every vehicle that is using a steamer, the one thing that you do need to make sure that you're doing, throw down some enzyme before. Steam
Yep.
and enzyme,
Yeah.
something about that combination is incredible.
Yeah. And look, you gotta really say it, you know, as many times as you can. Enzyme being thrown down on a carpet first is not going to set a stain, which so many guys deal with by throwing just a general APC down. They set stains. Okay. They don't realize until they get halfway through or three-quarters of the way through the detail, or maybe they get called back the next day and say, hey, this stain came back. Then they try to remove it and they go, I can't remove the stain. It's like, well, that APC set a stain. This happens on your clothes just the same as it can happen on a piece of carpet in your house or a piece of carpet in your car. Enzyme kind of, to me, foolproofs that from happening because the stains that I would set with an APC, an enzyme's already going to take care of it. Then you come back with complete, or you just do enzyme in the steamer, which I've done plenty of times. I know you've done just enzyme at times because it wasn't that bad and you were just dealing with some organic matter that you wanted to get up. But enzyme to me is the foolproof way to not set a stain because that's what everybody does. And if you use enzyme properly and you don't drench the surface, you're not going to get wicking to happen. Wicking happens because you've over drenched the surface, you've buried something, it dries out and it comes to the surface. That's the easiest way I've ever had it explained to me, and that we would explain it to anyone else. That's why an extractor can become a real problem for guys, is because they just drench seats. It doesn't matter how powerful the extractor is. Once it's drenched, you could bury stains deep in the fibers, and it could take a while for it to come back.
Enzyme's one of those extractor, steamer. It's one of those moments where you're right. Like because of things we've done in the past, and because you continue to have like problems, if you keep doing, fill in the blank, then this is going to keep happening. You eventually have to get to a moment, which we did as an industry, where we go, hey, listen, we got to come up with something new. I love the way we progress, right? What we did and how, with the time that we came out with our carpet system and the way we did it, right? Everybody's going to do with the way they feel. I think there's you got cleaning systems, you've got carpet systems, you've got protection systems. One of the things that I've always kind of questioned, I guess, with everybody having their different ways, their different philosophies, is then, we have these different things where people go, well, let's come into this group and let's all talk about it. You can have there's this new thing that people are calling, I guess they've been around a while, but a conclave. Right now, there's this, let's have a meeting. There's how many different expos now and how many different
Sure.
tables of this and groups of that. And, hey, we're going to set up this new association because we didn't like the way this association did. And then you got people that are online complaining about how many different segmentations of our
Sure.
industry there are. They just go, wow, is anybody ever going to say, hey, enough is enough? or it's
Well, I
just all
think
going to keep going?
sometimes we have a problem as humans. It's not just our industry. And you and I try to level this out by saying everyone needs to stop thinking that everything is special to detailing, because this stuff happens everywhere. It always has happened. Some things are just supposed to change, right? Like you and I have talked about, not attending trade shows as we did in the past. It isn't because those trade shows can even really be improved. It's not that that company is doing like a horrible job. Maybe it's just time to not have those things. Maybe times have changed. One of the things we have a hard time is everybody thinks that this thing is bad and I'm going to do it better. And, 1 out of 10 times that works, but sometimes it's just past its day, right? Like none of us are going out to the driveway and picking up a newspaper anymore, right? That's not happening. So if you and I told everybody, hey, we're going to start the hyperCLEAN newspaper, people are like, what, these two idiots? It's just supposed to not be there anymore. We've just gotten a better way to get our news. It's okay. And I think that's, again, what a lot of people, instead of sitting online and complaining about these things, it's kind of okay to go, those things just passed its day. If people want to go spend their time that way, it doesn't really affect me or you or our community of people. I don't think it really affects us at all. But if you're spending your time complaining about those things, maybe what you need to think is you just need to go, hey, I just don't think those things should exist. So I'm just not going to worry about them. And I'm going to move on to a more modern way of doing things. Look, I think this is going to be the SEMA question. I've said this for the better part of the last 3 to 4 years, and I got a bunch of, I didn't know what I was talking about, but now you see everybody dropping out of SEMA prematurely, by the way, before busy season even hits. And it kind of caught fire this year for a lot of guys to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I told people 4 years ago this was struggling. It wasn't because I was trying to judge anybody. I was just like, guys, I'm there and I'm telling you there's a problem. The problem could have been solved. You would have had to do some very drastic things, but maybe we all need to say out loud that maybe SEMA is just not going to exist the way that it existed 10 years ago. And maybe it shouldn't. Maybe it's time to just move on from that.
Maybe the people that maybe could have gotten it to move on didn't want it to. I
Sure.
think this is the interesting part when we have these discussions and we look around the industry. You wonder, in a sense, who is going to be. Uh, what's the guy now that's kept putting on his jersey? He's now going to the Steelers. Who's that guy?
Oh, yeah. Aaron Rodgers.
Well, what's it like? Who's the guy that's going to keep hanging? And you see him. You see these
Yeah.
people that just keep hanging on. Let's come out with something new. Well, then they got this trainer that wants to talk about this now. You got this guy that, he closed
Yeah.
this.
And
Now
I
he's going to
think,
go
I
out
think
with
that,
this.
yeah, I think for our crowd, because we do get so much question about this stuff, what I want to encourage people to do is just move on. We need to move the conversation, which I think was what you're trying to get at, is we need to move the conversation to where things actually are today instead of the way they used to be. There's a lot of people that have been in the business 5 years that remember a different industry even 5 years ago. And I can tell you, I remember a different industry 10 to 15 years ago. Sometimes it's just time to let things go. It's time to just open your eyes, open your ears, keep your mouth shut, watch how people act, watch out how many people have bounced from company to company to company. And if you follow that and you follow those individuals and you don't put two and two together that maybe the problem is them, then that's okay. I'm not going to be able, you and I aren't going to be able, but I get so many questions about this. And I don't have a better response than this, is that who you surround yourself with, who you follow, who you align with, that's going to have the most effect on your life. That's just a period in your personal life, in your professional life, it doesn't matter. And I can promise everybody that there are good people in this industry. Most of them, I think, just like us, we're not extremely loud on social media. That's just not how we do things. Our YouTube page is very common sense. We show you how to do work. We try to just be upfront and say, hey, this is how I would do something. And that's going to resonate with the right people. And we have attracted the right people as our customers, many of you, that we're really happy to be in business with. There's a lot of guys, though, that continue to ask questions of you or me, and they want us to talk about things. Guys, I've largely moved on from a lot of this stuff. I don't really care about associations or shows or what people are doing or not doing. Hey, I'll go to SEMA because it's right down the street. and I'll set up meetings at SEMA, and I'll go look at the tool section and what's going on in the body shop world and wheels and tires. And I'll be extremely happy with that. And I'll enjoy the hell out of SEMA when I see all you great people out there, and we'll sit and talk business. But I think, Marty, you know this as well as anybody. I think part of it is guys just got to move on. They got to realize things have changed. They're not coming back. You got to be okay with it.
Well, let's break that down a little bit. Things have changed. We've got to move on. Uh I I I think about, for, like you said, the people that are with us, people, or people that aren't with us, that maybe get this passed on to. Because we do get a lot of people that go, hey, you're talking about something. I want to send this over to somebody I know that I kind
Sure.
of seen somebody might be in the wrong crowd, or hey, maybe, I've seen some of the things that they post about, and I'm like, hey, maybe you guys shouldn't be that way. Like, hey, there's a better alternative. I think you definitely go into that because, something we talk. How does somebody ever know? And we kind of say the things over and over, and we go, well, look at their past. Well, hey, look at so. There's some of this that's so snake oil that people show that they've progressed, gone from this company to the next company, and they show it as a badge of honor, right? Like,
Sure.
I'm progressing through it, so you guys should now follow me over here. And it's not just, let me just back up for a hold on a second. It's not something we picked on before. It's not reps, not just reps. There's plenty
Sure.
of reps, right? There's detailers that close down their shop, and now they're with a coating company, right? They might have been with this coating company, now they're with this one. I love this conclave of stuff, right? You got people that used to be with this coating company, now they're with another one. There's people that just put their name down. Come listen to me, and here's my name. I
Sure.
haven't really done much, but I've been on social a long time. I've been telling you about a lot of stuff, so you should come listen to me. And is that ultimately, like, I wonder if that, you say, hey, old, and speaking, getting through things a long time. Is it, you think that's really what it is? If somebody can just stay relevant on social media for X many years or however long, they suddenly just get believed, right? Because
Yeah. I mean, look, social, we tried to say this, man. There's a lot of this stuff that's a television show. That's all that it is. Just like if you watched, your favorite sitcom, your favorite, drama on television, that's what social media is. I mean, look, this podcast is no different than any other podcast. We're here entertaining you. Hopefully you listen to us. Hopefully you go be a part of the hypercleanstore.com brand and you go buy our stuff. Like, we've been pretty, at least I've been pretty upfront. Like, guys, we do this podcast, so maybe you'll go buy some products at Hyperclean Store. Like, we have something behind this. This isn't just a television show for us. We actually have a brand we have to build and we're responsible for. There's other people that don't own a single thing and they just build a social media brand and that's it. They don't own anything. They just make content. I mean, one of the things that came across that guys are asking me a lot about is there was a guy that was in a business for a very short time. He held trainings at his facility and shut his facility down within the first year. And, what do you think about that? And I go, well, that's nothing new to me. I mean, that's been going on for the better part of the last, 10 to 15 years. I mean, it's just now more noticeable on social media. And then to see how many people are engaged with those types of people, guys. I mean, Marty, you and I have had some meetings that would astonish people of individuals on social media and how they are behind the scenes and how they really don't know much about detailing or even trying to do anything to help the crowd that they're taking money from. But that stuff, guys, you just have to know it's out there. I said to Marty before, QVC still makes billions of dollars. Late night, infomercials are still getting run every day. People buy it. And you got to ask yourself what type of person you want to be. Are you going to buy into the real things, or are you going to go on QVC and buy a bunch of junk? Like, there really is only a couple options. And when you understand and you're very upfront with yourself about what social media is, that it's some form of entertainment, it just like a television show would be. And I'm going to take my time and look for the people that I can kind of vet and I can see stand behind something and kind of have a consistent message. But again, I'm not responsible for everyone else. You know, you got to make the decision for your life, for your enjoyment of your cars or doing this professionally. But there's warning signs of all of this stuff, but there have been for decades now. I mean, you knew who the people were that were snake oil salesmen in Tulsa, Oklahoma 20 years ago. I mean, it just happens to be on the internet now, right? And guys struggle to see through some of the stuff, but I think everybody that finds success does see through that stuff.
I think most of our listeners do, right? But we look on social media and we see this mass flood of people that, well, they either take some of the people and they'll praise them and say how great they are, that they taught them something, or they might take them and they'll go, "Hey, I can't believe these guys," right? Like, I
Well,
can't believe it.
I'll
I've
tell.
had enough.
Yeah, let's talk about this. There's something that's popped up that I've had people ask me a question about is the SDS sheets of products. This is probably a hotbed for you and I of what we see on social media. We have said for the better part of the last 5 years together, an SDS sheet is not a formula of a product.
No.
Okay. It will never be the formula of a product because if you had an awesome body lotion at Procter and Gamble and you put the formula in your SDS sheet, that means every one of your competitors now has the formula. So you have these people that go, if you know how to read an SDS sheet, okay. You have no idea what's required by law if you talk about the SDS sheet. The SDS sheet does not require very much to be legally applicable in the marketplace.
And
So
technically,
you
they
have
really only have to put out what would be that would cause problems in the environment. What does the S stand for? Safety,
safety. Yes.
right?
So
So,
again, so think about this. The SDS sheet is driven by transportation
mm-hmm,
more than anything.
mm-hmm. Have a
So
spill, what happens? Goes
yeah,
in aquatic life, what happens? Gets
yeah,
on your
but
skin, what
actually
happens?
even before that is if somebody gets it in their eye is what they're concerned about. If somebody ingests it. The environment, let me be clear, is like 10th on the list of what they're actually worried about. But I just had this conversation about the EPA for a project you and I are working on. And I was talking very clearly with somebody. I said, let me be clear about something. All this talk about the EPA, that's like 100th on the list of a safety data sheet. If somebody ingests it or a UPS driver gets it on their hand and then touches their eye, that's the first thing they're concerned about. Because who are the first people we hear from when there's a spill because somebody dropped a package? It's FedEx, it's UPS, it's DHL, it's somebody like that. But this is where we look at it and go, guys, let me walk you through how crazy social media is in our world, which is every world, by the way, is when guys start to say, from the SDS sheet, I can make the product. That couldn't be. There is not a single SDS sheet from a major manufacturer that has the formula on the SDS sheet. And if it does, that brand has made a huge mistake because it's not required. Most of the additives they're using, if they were ingested or anything like that, don't have any safety concerns. You have zero idea to what concentration level because we can use a variance of percentage. Like if
Keep it
you're less
large.
than 5%, you can just write less than 5%, less than 1%, less than 10%. That's all that's required.
They can
So
also say, what's those magical words? Where they say,
proprietary blend. Yeah. So I think people have to understand that when we talk about social media, you can look at just the SDS sheet conversation and see how much of a television show it is. Because people go, well, if you just have an SDS sheet and a little chemistry knowledge, you know how to make this product. I mean, I know of all kinds of great products in the world that aren't in detailing that make billions of dollars. We have a facility. Why wouldn't Marty and I just go do the products that we know make billions of dollars and say we've copied this product on a marketing campaign? Here it is for cheaper, which is what every major company would do as well. That's why there's a thing called reverse engineering that's a whole billion trillion dollar marketplace of companies that's all they do for a living. That's all they do. They go, hey, we want to copy something DuPont made. Great. Just to get started, it's 550 grand. That's a whole marketplace in and of itself. But the reason I bring this up is so people don't feel like I'm not attacking anything. I'm just trying to explain to you these are things that get forwarded to us off social media in the detailing space that should automatically disqualify you from listening to somebody because they don't actually know what they're saying. And again, if they did, I'd be the first one to say, that's great information. This isn't great information. This is, and by the way, it's not even true to what an SDS sheet is. Like we get SDS sheets every time we get a raw material in. We know what's in the raw material and it's not on, everything's not on the SDS sheet. And the supplier will say, well, it's not required. And the only reason they're sending the SDS sheet to transport the thing to us is because that's what's required, is to send the piece of paper, not actually, nobody's actually governing the piece of paper. This is like what I say about organic food. Who do you think's checking all that? That's a lot of strawberries to check.
What about the
Who do
free
you,
range or the this?
yeah.
Like, you know,
You
you've
think
seen
people are
that with
like
the
walking
chicken
out
farms.
checking every single strawberry? Like, come on, what are you talking about?
Listen, anybody driven through Arkansas, it's a madhouse there. The amount of chicken farms, the amount of this, like, and they show like these, like, this is what I think is interesting of where you go, what's the difference in memes and then actual photo? Like, somebody can take a moment and meme it, then somebody can take a moment and blast it. It can go into a meme where they're like, hey, you know, this is some education. Here's this chicken is actually free range, but it's stuck here, right? This is
Yeah.
cage free, but it does it. And they'll say, like, hey, they might show you that it means this, but here's actually what
Actually,
that
what it
chicken,
is.
here's what's actually
Yeah.
going through, right? Like,
Yeah. And like I said, man, this is not to like, throw shade at the farmers out there, but I want people to understand, just think of things common sense. And I think, a lot of people say common sense isn't common anymore. And I think
I was you beat me to it.
yeah, but
You beat
here's
me
the thing.
to it.
I don't believe that. I think a lot of people have turned their common sense button off and they just think everything on the internet's real. Everything I come across, I have it all figured out. And I'm here to say there are warning signs for people like us who have experience in this business that we can pick up on for your exact point, because we've been doing it a little bit longer. Okay, we've just been doing it longer. We know more people. We know more decision makers. We now have people spread out all across the globe that you may have known for the last 20 years of your life, and all of a sudden he's an executive at this company, and you can pick up the phone and go, "Hey, man, what is going on with this?" And he's like, I mean, it's wrong. Whatever they're saying on the internet, that's not true. Here's the truth." And part of that network is important, but also the SDS sheet shows how much of a television show you can make something like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and not even be correct. Not even a little bit correct.
So that's why let's just go back to that common sense isn't common. Like, is it not common anymore because things have become so common, right? If there's so much out there,
Sure.
the sense of right and wrong just kind of gets diluted. They used to say in marketing, somebody needs to see a billboard 7 times. Then when social media came up and when everything, then it tripled. Like, and that was years ago. I imagine
Sure.
if you talk to marketers now and they go, how many times somebody needs to see what you're putting out on social media? I wonder how long that has to be. Well, what if you continue? Not just what if somebody sees it, but what if they've watched it 100 times and have yet to buy? Well, but they still see you. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to put you into, oh, this guy must know. He's been around enough. Enough people are buying.
Sure.
Maybe I haven't believed in it, but now I am. And they get into something like, there was this photo I saw inside of somebody else's group, and it got into a bunch of different groups, right? And it got into catched a lot of different wind, it looks like. And it was some guy holding this brush, and now he's talking about a brush, and they're like, wait, this guy was years ago over here, and he wasn't talking, he was saying do this. Then they're over here, and you go, okay, what if somebody or some brand or some philosophy, it's not so much about some particular person, it's just some theory or something. If something's been around enough, if it's circled back enough, right or wrong, it almost in a sense becomes common.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, well, enough people are doing it that way. Maybe I should too.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have seen this with really harsh chemicals, right? That we know for a fact. We've been sent pictures of burnt up vehicles. We're working on another project for a company where we're seeing all kinds of like misuse of products and the way things are said. And we're having to re-educate actual chemists that have been using something for 15 years that's not actually helping the product they're trying to protect. So we're battling against that, right? And I think that goes to your theory. If we all see something enough, it becomes normalized. But if you have common sense around it, I don't have to get worked up about some product or some tool someone uses. If I buy it and it doesn't work as said, I throw it in the trash and I move on with my day. Or I just go, hey, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm out. But a lot of people want to argue. We call it the 2 cent theory here inside of our company. They feel like they got to give 2 cents on something. Guys, it's just better to move on. Like I'm not going to in any way, shape, or form. And I get so many questions, DMs, all this kind of stuff, text messages. Guys, I'm not going to ever bash something in a text message, in a phone call. I'm not bashing anything here. This stuff doesn't affect us, but it does affect some of you because your common sense button is a little bit off, and you're not going, that doesn't add up to me. And that's where I get a lot of these questions. I go, I know this guy knows better. I know he does. I know he has the common sense. But like you said, if it's circulated 100 times, it becomes normalized. And you guys have to just look at social media, even something like this podcast. Guys, there's a degree of entertainment to what we do. That doesn't make what we say not true, but you got to understand this platform. If you guys aren't entertained, you're not going to listen. And that's the case. And we can't comment on every little thing that comes up because it's not our place. And matter of fact, there's a lot of this stuff you and I just don't care that much about.
You're moved on. You're like, I've moved on. I'm done.
Well, dude, it's like for 4 years I've been telling people about SEMA. I mean, I'm 4 years early to what these brands are starting to notice now. Just because I kept my mouth shut, my eyes open, and my ears open, I looked at what was happening at SEMA and I told all of you guys what was happening at SEMA. And then we had all these people say, I didn't know what I was. Oh, he's just this. It's like, guys, I just shut up and looked and listened and watched what was happening. It wasn't rocket science, but it is rocket science if you turn the common sense off in your brain. I mean, I could see it. The rest of the show is hype. Everyone's having a great time. I walk into our part of the show and it's like walking into a graveyard. You guys don't think that's going to have an effect? Of course it is. But you have to be quiet and observe what's going on and not be so married to an idea. The one thing people don't probably pick up enough, and I'm probably not the best at it, I'm not married to any idea. If the winds change and I get new information, I'm going to use the new information and go, hey, man, things have changed. I mean, that's the way it is. I don't control the world. I don't control SEMA. I don't control customer behavior. I all I do is say, how can hyperCLEAN serve our customers better? And the way that we've chosen over the last 5 years is when I see something or you see something that's out of whack, we just bring it up. That's what everybody has to understand is I wasn't married to SEMA. We weren't married to MTE or to trade shows as a whole. It was just like, does this make sense? Is this a great thing? Great, we'll do it. If it's not a great thing, it's not a great thing, and it's time to find a new way to connect with customers. And the podcast, our YouTube, our Instagram, you guys have seen we branched out into clutch culture. That's all been done for a reason because we feel like a lot of you have moved on. A lot of you want to have higher level conversations and talk about the car business and learn new things and have a little fun and stop with all of this concerning ourselves with things that doesn't move the needle for anybody, in my opinion. I think we've actually seen this stuff have a negative impact at times. And so we just choose not to be a part of some of it. Doesn't mean the people that choose to be a part of it are wrong. It's just that's what they made the choice of, and we made a different choice.
As most people kind of look around social, look at the industry for detailing, something that you and I have talked about is fragmented, right? Like, and some people go, hey, this is why we need to have this, defined and have this group. They'll say, hey, we are too fragmented. We need to come together. I I didn't know if you could ever put everybody together and if we should be. Like, we
We're all
probably
different.
almost in a sense should be fragmented, right? We should have some people that go and journey down some random thing. Let's go back to years ago where people started creating these like almost multi-level marketing with coatings, right? You could buy your territory and you could
Sure.
sell your territory off to other detailers so that they can have their piece, and they determine the value of this area. You go, how the
Yeah,
hell does a coating company
but here's the
come
deal.
out of nowhere and
But
determine
here's the thing.
value as an area, and then people get to buy rights to it?
But here's the deal. You and I never hated on. I don't hate on that. That's what they're choosing to do, right? That's their move. Just like we know other people that control the SEO for coding in shops and areas. I never hated on any of that. I'm not going to hate on it today. They've made a call, but you have to make a call as an individual if you want to be a part of that. And I think that's what we haven't talked about enough because it's hard to talk about. We're all responsible for what we choose to be a part of, right? That's just the way things are. And I think we've gotten to this point, and hopefully this helps some people, is like, if your common sense button is turned on, you're ahead of 90% of the population. I see a lot of common sense things that I just go, there's just no way if you took 2 seconds to think through that, you would do that. There's just no, I mean, look, for those that got, I mean, look at how many people lost billions of dollars in NFTs. Nobody could explain why NFTs were going to work long term. So what happened?
How many detailers used to post, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just think
Oh,
about it. Look, people will still tell me the math is out there of how many billions and trillions globally were lost on NFTs. It's not a Nick opinion, a Marty opinion, anybody's opinion. The common sense was make it make sense to me as we sit there in the moment, and nobody could do it.
but if it makes sense to you, then you've waited too long, Nick.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But again, real estate makes sense. You can define real estate and how it's going to make money for you.
Ceramic
You
coatings
can
make sense.
ceramic coatings make sense.
Lifelong. You can put on this. We've done it. We've developed a lifelong, Nick.
Yeah, but
Makes
here's
sense,
the
doesn't it?
deal. When you
That's a
walk
joke. Don't
through,
anybody
yeah,
think we've developed
yeah,
a
yeah,
lifelong
yeah,
coating.
yeah, yeah, no. But again, think of the common sense. Paint's not lifetime. So Toyota and Mercedes and Bentley and Rolls-Royce have not figured that out, but a random coating company did. Your common sense button would have to be turned off to believe that. That's the point of the common sense conversation. Is you go, if I discuss it properly, and if I discuss it without any kind of ulterior motive, and I go, Rolls-Royce hasn't figured it out. How did Timmy figure it out? And maybe he did. But I can tell you this, he'd be a billionaire pretty quick if he did. Because every car company would call him as fast as possible and say, how do we buy this? How do we get involved? How do we do that? But you got to have those conversations are a part of the common sense conversation, which is if these companies haven't done it, why would somebody in the backwoods of such and such city have done it and not just be cash rich, just dealing with manufacturers? And again, I don't know where we're going to stand in 2028. I know where we stand in June of 2025, which is where we're recording this. Things change, which is why I tell people the people you're around are going to dictate how you deal with the world. And what you want is the most common sense, pragmatic, and upfront people you can find, because the rest of it, you're just going to get dragged down into the mud of stuff that doesn't matter, in my opinion.
Is it buyer's remorse? Do you think we're seeing now this like surgence of people starting to complain about, hey, I used to follow this guy, I used to buy this, and now they're talking about this, and it's and you go, it's a little buyer's remorse. Like they think that they got sold that this person had the secret sauce, and
Yeah, but
hey, if you
I
just
think
buy
we just
this, then
talked about it.
everything's gonna, because we're all in business to make money, and these people say, hey, if you buy this, you're gonna be able to do this. Hey, if you can do this, hey, get this because you're going to. And this is all salesmanship, and they do a great job at it. And we should tip our hat. We should go. Sometimes we should take a breath, probably. Sometimes some of us should probably take a deep breath and go, wait, am I getting sucked into something of, I know I want so much. I know I need this. Hey, I know I knew. Like we could be this Father's Day and the kid could be like, nah, I really want a swimming pool. Okay, I want a swimming pool. Well, this guy told me if I buy this, I could do this, right? Like
Sure.
you start to analyze, you go, listen, common sense. Common sense means I'm watching these people and they tell me if I just do this, then I'll get X, Y, and Z. Well, goddamn, Nick, what are you talking about? I just need to go
Yeah,
do it.
sure. Yeah, no, I think Brian, who we've had on a lot of episodes, he kind of says it best with this, especially in the professional market. But I think this is anything in life right now. Everybody thinks the next thing is going to save their business, or it's going to
Mhm,
save them, or it's going to
mhm,
be the
mhm,
secret.
mhm.
Uh, Guys, there's no secret at hyperCLEAN. Buy good chemicals that are formulated, take care of your car or take care of your customers to a high level. Do that enough, you're going to earn a lot of money. And we have case studies inside this business where people were about out of business and have become millionaires off the hyperCLEAN world. I love seeing that. But Brian says it the best, and I think he's put it the best, and we need to give credit where it's due. They all think the people that struggle in this business or struggle taking care of their car, they think the next thing's going to save them. And by the way, that is not a detailing specific thing. You can see this with how people invest their money. You can see this with weight loss
There you go. I
as
was
a
like, take
yeah.
this pill. You can like,
Yeah. I mean, look at how many people are going to take something like Ozempic and don't realize they got to be on it the rest of their life. I mean, I've seen this with people that get on testosterone.
my
They want to
cholesterol.
get
We talked about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get jacked in the gym. Hey man, you get on some tests, you're going to get jacked. You're on it long enough, you're not getting off of it. There's no that's a lifelong journey now because you've taken too much steroids. You now have to take it forever. And
I'm not taking
again,
steroids. But what's
what's
that?
that?
What's the cholesterol medicine? What's
Oh
that?
yeah, statins.
Statin. Yeah. I
Yeah.
still refuse to take it.
Well, and now they're like, hey, statins may be causing all this Alzheimer.
I
And you
might
go,
die
okay.
next week. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah. So again, this is not a health and wellness show. You guys consult a doctor because I can tell you, Marshall and I are not smart enough to be your doctors. But these are things when you go, guys, and I think to get back to your point, some people make a choice. They realize it's the wrong choice, but they feel embarrassed about saying, I got to change course. I don't have that embarrassment when I make a bad choice. It's like, hey, we made the wrong call. That's on me. We got to fix the wrong call. You get big enough in business, you're going to say that a lot more than you think. You're going to say that a lot more than you think of. Hey, we tried something, it didn't work. We got to try this other thing. That wasn't the right call. Actually, what people think is that you make way better calls when you get bigger. Actually, you just make more calls, so there's more times for you to be incorrect about a decision. And if you're going to stay big and stay growing, you got to be willing to say, hey, we made a call, we spent some money, didn't work, we got to go into a new direction. I think a lot of people just got to be okay saying, hey, I just kind of thought the wrong thing. I got caught up in the wrong thing. I got to go back and do the more common sense thing. I think it's hard. It's hard for all of us. I'm not judging anyone else. I think it's just hard to do.
Yes. And if there's a way we can look at inside of detailing, inside of cars, that moment would be what we were talking about earlier, leather. If you just take care of it every week, magically it looks awesome.
Yeah, for
Right? This
decades,
past
not
week
not
when
for
I was
minutes.
working on,
It takes decades. It lasts
right?
good. It looks good for decades.
I was working on this guy's truck because we're working on a leather conditioner, and I said, hey man, let me just put this on. I'm just trying to work on it, right? I'm just trying to see what we're doing here. And he goes, just like we'll see inside of groups, we'll see in it. Hey, how do I get this out? Right? It's that crease
Yep.
inside of where it's cracked. And he's like, listen, this is pleather. It's not leather anymore. We go through all that. Oh, well, and there's something that I can put on it. No, my guy. There's not
It's
some
ruined.
magic band-aid at this point that you can put on it. And this is the where you look at them and you just go, if you would have taken care of your seats every week, every other week, just regularly took care of your seats, we'd never be in this problem.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, and Chevy's really notorious for this, of having the wrinkle on the seat bolster. And I tell people, I also see Chevys that don't have it. And the reason they don't have it is that guy's kept it clean. That guy has kept it maintained. He climbs into his car a certain way, right? All of these things. I got it on my LX right now. There's a lot of cracks on the bottom seat bolster for the driver's side. There's only one way to fix it. I got to bring a leather repair company in. They got to fix it. They got to get it back to normal, or I got to resurface, relay all the leather on that seat. All good. But I know the game. The people before me didn't understand what they were doing, didn't care to do it. Maybe that's also a part of it. They're like, Nick, I don't care if there's a little crack right here. Why do you care about that? That's the other part of it is, some people just don't care, and that's fine. But we look at this, and I think the theme of today is guys, we get a lot of questions about all of this stuff going on. And I can just tell people, the more you move on from it, the more you get yourself out of it, the happier you're going to be. It's fun to have some of these conversations, to learn a little bit or to see points of view on things. But again, I'll for everyone that's been around, think about the heat we took about SEMA. It's honestly, people just didn't want to hear it. People didn't want to actually learn to change or to make changes or to realize things were headed in the wrong direction. Everybody took everything personal, although we never said personally about one company what should happen. Closing your mouth, opening your eyes, opening your ears, that seems like a superpower as we sit here in 2025. And I think that will restore almost everybody's common sense, because you'll go, lifetime coating doesn't make sense to me. So guess what? If you never get sucked into it, it doesn't affect you. That's the bottom line. It doesn't affect you. And all of you guys who are living in these groups or living on detailing social media, and you're constantly watching, you guys are just getting more and more mad. There's nothing positive coming out of it for you, because you get sucked into these things, like you said, because you've seen something 100 times. You're like, oh, well, this is normal now. So then you go down that rabbit hole. And I think that's what we see. And I see it the most out of car owners. We see it a ton out of the pro detailer. It's no judgment on my part. It's easy to get sucked up into things. But I think separating yourself and finding good people is still going to be the answer, whether it's now 2025 or it's in 2030. The answer is going to be the same, because the internet's going nowhere. None of this is going to get fixed.
Yeah, yeah.
No one's going to fix it. No one has the answers. Nobody could fix it even if they tried. So stop thinking that way and just go, I just got to be a little bit more picky about the people that I'm willing to listen to.
You get to actually look at the people that's the amount of creators that are, complaining, bitching, moaning about other creators, right? Like
Yeah.
creators making creations about other creators. It's
And
wild,
by the way,
right? Like, let me create
it's a,
content about other creators. Like,
it's a television show, right? It's a way to create another episode in the television show. There's nothing easier than creating something about what somebody else is doing. That's the easiest content to make. As two guys that have done a lot of episodes, it can get challenging for things to talk about. I mean, it can get very challenging because you want to try to do your best. Nothing easier than just, hey, this creator's bad, I'm good. This company's bad, look at this SDS sheet. I know how to make the products. Look at me making them. You got to just think of it common sense, guys. If everybody's SDS sheet told the formula, I can tell you this right now, Marty and I'd be a lot richer after we build our facility and just go, you see what Procter & Gamble makes on toothpaste? We're making that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, people, you got to think of this in a common sense way, that the SDS sheet is just a metaphor for everything else. If somebody says something that crazy, you really got to think the common sense. Why would anybody who owned a facility not just copy everything that a $1 billion company is doing because they got it on the SDS sheet? That's just not real life.
all right, so we'll close with this question. Each of us think about it. HyperClean's going to make a toothpaste. What scent? Right? You go to the dentist, they're always like, you want peppermint or you want strawberry? What
Yeah.
scent would be that? I'm going black eyes. I'm going black eyes.
Black eyes. I gotta say, I'm a minty toothpaste guy.
Yeah.
Anything that's like the rest of it, I feel like
Yeah,
I
but you
didn't
can't
clean my
choose
teeth.
that. You got to go car care.
Oh,
Car
car
care and
care.
toothpaste. Black eyes, man.
You got to go
Black
like
eyes.
pina colada.
Okay, you could do pina colada. You could
Feel
definitely
like
do
you're on
pina colada.
vacation when you brush your teeth.
Yeah, there you go. You can do
I'm
pina
in
colada.
Tahiti.
All right, guys, good episode. We'll talk to y'all next time. And hey, in the middle of it, go join us in the HyperClean Specialist group. We got a great group of guys there posting cool photos, fun things going on in their world, and it's a great time to go hang out.
All right, man. See you guys.